Welcome to the Digital Nomad Experts Podcast, brought to you by Commute. Today we're really excited because we're going to talk to you about a super important topic that we've referenced quite a bit in the past, like just in little bits on segments within the podcast. But after doing a little bit of brainstorming with Marissa and I, decided that this should be a full-blown podcast. So we actually have 12 safety considerations when traveling as a female digital nomad. And what we're going to do is we've got all of these topics, and I'm going to let Marissa talk because she's got so many years of experience with this through trial and error, maybe a few mistakes, maybe a few things you've learned from others, and just kind of learning as you go. So we know a huge percentage of our audience are female. We see it in the statistics. We see it when we're traveling, and we want to make sure that we get this important information to everybody, especially for the upcoming digital nomads who are going to go on their first trip. So you could potentially skip a few steps and be just fully locked down and feel good about that first trip and not feel like, you know, you may have forgotten something in terms of safety. Yeah. So before we do that, Marissa, what's going on? Still in the States?
Still in the States.
For much longer?
I don't know. I think so. I think I'll be here probably quite a little while longer, almost maybe for the summer, I think. We'll see. I'm always open to
big
things
development.
Changing. I know, it's feeling good, honestly, just to
or little
chill.
Development.
Little development. Yeah, I guess I wasn't really meant to be back here until August, so I just sort of added some months on earlier, and I was planning to be here August, September, so I think I'll do that as well too. And then I've got a Nomad friend wedding in Mexico in October, so a bunch of people will be there. Maybe I'll stay in Playa, my favorite place, but all sort of TBD. We'll see. What about you?
Gonna be here for another week and then going. I'm going to Romania, but it was an easier flight to go to the UK. So believe it or not, this is gonna be the first time that I go to the UK. I'm just gonna spend a couple of days there. Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
I think you'll like.
I know it's
I think
on my
you'll
list,
like all
but
the
it
pubs.
was. I think I will too. everything you don't like, dingy beer smell, wood, everything.
Yes, keep me away.
Too many spirits in the wood.
Exactly. You get me, Jeff. But everything you love. So I think, I can't wait to hear. So you're just going to do a couple solo days there on your way because it worked for your cheaper travel, flights, all of that.
We got to get that hacking episode in. We'll look for that coming up. We're going to do a travel hacks episode.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a couple days there, going to Romania, and I've got a gap of 3 weeks, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I was thinking about Istanbul, maybe? Have you done Istanbul before?
Yes, I have. I went a long time ago. I went with a bunch of friends. It's very topical for this conversation about female safety travel because it's actually one of the places.
This was unplanned. Everybody.
I felt the most
unsafe,
and that was many years ago. And I was also, it was before my nomading years. I was just with two of my girlfriends from college, and we just, I knew nothing, was just doing things and put myself in some situations where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know about this. And anyway, but I think you'll really enjoy exploring it. It's a very cool, it feels very different than a lot of places. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, have you done any Middle East sort of locations?
Nada.
Yeah, so it's a cool entryway into that. So highly suggest that for you. I think you'll love it.
With that, let's jump into, you're going to go in order, I think, of like arriving to a place. So you can kind of go through the sequence of events, like in real time, what you would experience and the things you should look out for. Yes. So why don't you take us through the first thing to the first consideration?
Okay, number one, this is something that I probably just never would have thought through before I kind of gained some experience along the way. So as you are even, like before you arrive in a place, before you have even booked a flight, I want you to think about when your flight or bus or train or however you're getting to a new location, when you are arriving. So, for example, there's been times where I landed at Egypt. I think this one, my flight got delayed. I didn't mean to do this, but it landed at like 3 a.m. and it can feel really sketchy to arrive, this was by myself, like arrive in an airport where you're going out. I think I didn't have a SIM card or a phone, like the SIM card places are closed. So I'd actually booked transportation, which I'll get to in a second, with the hotel that I was staying at because I knew I was going to be arriving alone and had never been to this place before. But at that time, like I couldn't contact him. I couldn't find him. So I had to get a random taxi at 3 a.m. in Cairo, Egypt, which is like, every alarm bell and you're like intuition system is like ding, ding, ding. Like, where are we going? What are we doing? Is this person safe? So I'll talk through those things of, even if that does happen, what you do. But as much as you can, just one other example, I was arriving with a boyfriend at the time. I think we were going, I forget where we landed. We're somewhere in like Estonia or Latvia or like Lithuania. I don't know, somewhere in Eastern Europe. And one of the E's, somewhere there. I honestly can't remember where we were. It was a little country. Anyway, we arrived and I think we took a bus. It was like a 7-hour bus somewhere and got in. I think it got there at 1 a.m. and it was this tiny little bus stop, like in a random neighborhood that was, the actual bus station was closed down. So they just drop you off. There weren't any taxis or Ubers, readily available. And I think I got an Uber, but it took maybe 12 minutes to arrive. And I felt fine because I was with my partner. But I remember having this conversation at the time with him and saying, like, would you arrive normally? Like, if you were just alone, would you feel comfortable just arriving in this random neighborhood at night? He was like, I wouldn't think twice. And I was telling him, I was like, as a female, if it should happen, there's ways to figure it out. But I was like, I never would have taken this bus to get here at this time. I would have gone a different day, arrived earlier, found quicker transportation, planned something ahead of time. Like, they're just things you have to think through. So if you can, when you're planning, again, flights, buses, trains, wherever, try to arrive in daylight at an earlier time because you're just going to feel more comfortable and safer. So that's just sort of like overall number one that just never occurred to me. And it really depends. Like if you're going to London, right, where it's like a huge busy airport and there's going to be a million people there, like that's a little bit safer than arriving in like, Estonia at a random bus stop in the middle of the night. So, it also depends where you're going. But any thoughts just as I put that out there, Jeff?
I've got a question for you. So some places have limited flights to them and you're going to have limited opportunities.
Yeah.
And say the flight that you want is $1,000. The flight that you don't want that lands at 2 a.m,
right,
it's $500, right?
Yeah.
What do you do in that situation when you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place there?
That's a great question because even as I think about like when we went to Bolivia, like the only flights landed from where we're coming from were like 2:30 in the morning, and I was lucky like you and I met at that time, and our friend Esty was on the same flight as well, so 3 of us traveled together. But if you are doing that, and this we'll just hop to this next one is plan ahead of time of your transportation. So I guess I'll jump to that one. It was going to be number 3, but I'll talk about that as number 2. It's like if you have to or have no choice, or you are just like, it is worth my $1,000 to take my chances. The next best thing to do is plan your transportation ahead of time. So number 2, I would do this anyway. So when you are arriving to a new place, sometimes like if I'm going back to a place I've been a million times, or again, if I'm like in London and I'm like, just do a quick Google search, I'm like, okay, there's Ubers, it's going to be really easy, or New York, there's like a million taxis all times of the night, things like that. You can have a little more flexibility, but if especially you're like in a brand new place, you're not sure if you're going to feel comfortable, you're in the middle of nowhere in a weird little town. Because there are times, like I feel like I arrived in Bulgaria one time, and it was like the only flight I could go. It was super late at night, and then I had like a 2.5-hour drive to Mexico, and I had friends who happened to be there at the time, and they were like, "Here's a taxi driver's number." We all used him, so I know if you're a new nomad, you might not have friends, but if you have been traveling a little while, I always ask friends who've been in places, like you kind of get to know taxi drivers, or you get someone's number, and they're like, "Hey, I use this person, I trust him. Here's his number." So, but even if not, like do a Google search or find a company and plan your driver at the very least to say, I'm going to be here, or like, here's my flight number so they can watch if it's going to be delayed or not. Ask, like, don't arrive to Egypt and not have a cell phone and like not know where you're gonna go. Say like, I will meet you at this place at this time, and kind of like do that as an alternative. Or if there's Ubers, like research that. And I didn't have this as one of the 12, but I will say like a blanket statement that is just helpful in general is like, get a SIM card if you're arriving. They didn't used to have these, so like a lot of my life would have been a lot easier, but there's eSIMs now, or there's different plans, or just use your cell phone, turn it on and spend a day of roaming or whatever. But like have a cell phone available so that you can contact your, whether it's your hotel that you're coming, your driver, just knowing on a map where you're from. I'm going to add that in as a little bonus blanket tip that's going to be helpful for every one of these other 12 things. So yeah, that would be number 2, is like research your airport or bus or train or wherever you're arriving transportation ahead of time.
Some of these taxi companies aren't legit, and you'll come to find that over time. Like talking with Was it in Bolivia where Diego warned us about certain colored taxis?
Yeah, there's like official ones and then just like pop-up ones that just want to be taxis. And he's like, these are, go with the safer ones. So sometimes, yeah, you want to spend more money with like there's times where you might arrive late and it's like, well, I could take the bus or I could pay, $40 more for a safe taxi. And there's just times where you just pay for your safety. So yeah, do the research ahead of time. And if you do, like you've heard us many times, like we're not far ahead planners, but even if it's, on the way to the airport, do some Googling of like, can I take it, are the taxis safe from the airport? Is there a stand or is there a company? Like, there's so much information on the internet now that you can just, like, there's going to be a blog post about it. Like, someone or a forum, someone will have written about it or say, like, I trust this person, use this. Ask a friend who's been there, that sort of thing.
You've done your research. You've got your transportation plan. What's next?
Yeah. So number 3 is, this one's also a little bit of researching beforehand. And that's researching where you're going to, like, the type of place you're going to stay. So by this, I mean, like if you're going to stay in an Airbnb, if I know, so let's say, like Jeff said, we have to get this middle of the night flight or, like you arrive at a weird time. If I know that's going to happen, and again, this depends if you're like, are you going somewhere quickly or are you going to stay for a month? But I won't book, like, if it's a self-check-in Airbnb and I'm arriving at 3 a.m, and especially if I'm by myself, if I'm with multiple friends or a boyfriend or a partner or whatever, I might do a little bit differently. But if I know, especially as a female, if I'm going to be by myself arriving at night, I would rather book a hotel, even if it's just for one night, and then I'll move to an Airbnb. But like somewhere that has a front desk is really important to me, because, or like a 24-hour front desk, so that when I arrive, I'm not going to be like standing by myself in a dark street in a neighborhood I don't know, like fiddling around with a lock that doesn't work, and maybe I can't
hate
get
that
in
as a
touch.
guy. It's terrible. It's like there's going to be a lot of things you go through where it's going to not even click in my head and go, oh, now I'm more aware of these type of things.
Yeah.
That one I'm like very, very aware of. At 3 a.m,
Okay.
you're in a dark street
Yeah.
and you're trying to either wait for the Airbnb host or
Yeah.
there's some obscure way to get into it.
Yes.
It's not a safe situation at all.
No. Yeah. So if you're there during the day, like you can have all the time to fiddle around, to call someone to come help you.
Exactly.
It's fine if you have an hour. That's kind of a pain to me anyway. It's one thing I dislike about Airbnbs, but that's a different story. So in general, like if I know, like I might stay a night or two, or, if there's an equal Airbnb or the Airbnb is slightly better, but I'm going to be somewhere for 3 days and a hotel is like kind of fine, I'll choose the hotel that has a front desk, easy access. Like I know I'm not going to be stranded outside. And then also with that, as you're researching, to choose, and again, especially if you're going to be somewhere long term, and this is kind of through a lens of a solo-ish travel, but even if I'm just staying by myself and I have, sometimes we just want our own apartment, even if a bunch of our friends are in the same city or around, or maybe you're staying by yourself or you get there different days than everyone else, whatever. It's really important to research as so not only where you're going to arrive, like the night you check in, but it makes a difference, like in Cape Town, for example, like where if you're going to be staying in a place, like 2 streets over might be a lot sketchier to walk through by yourself at night, or even like in Playa del Carmen, for example. There's places I know where I'm like, okay, I can walk down this street, it's pretty busy, and then I can walk down this one and just be like 2 minutes down a kind of dark street at night to get to my place, versus like I have to walk through 5 dark streets that feel sketchy to get to at night. So, okay, and you can take taxis, and I'll talk through other solutions if you find yourself in a situation where because it's hard sometimes to know exactly where to stay, but do try to do your research and stay like in the safer to walk neighborhoods and the well-lit streets and the busier kind of just like, even in Guatemala, I don't know if you had this, Jeff, but in Antigua, I was living in a house. There was like, I think there was 7 of us, 7 like really good friends, but sometimes there's times where I met a different friend for dinner, and so I was walking back home to our house alone at night, or maybe I was working later at night and was walking home. And because I was staying in a house with 7 friends, I just didn't really think through it. But the place we were staying was sort of like just outside the main sort of well-lit areas. And so for the most of the walk home, I was like, I feel safe, I feel good. But then there was like these kind of 5 minutes where I was like, this is sketchy, I feel weird, this is dark, I wish I wasn't alone. But I didn't research it because I was with so many friends. So those are things to think through. Like even if you are with a group, try to stay in the places that are well-lit, busy, walkable, like, yeah, just kind of feel safe to get to.
I really love your recommendation for booking a hotel, especially for that first night.
Yeah.
And we've actually, I don't know if you remember, but in a podcast before, we made that same exact recommendation of booking a hotel for just a couple days.
Yeah.
So you can get your bearings on the city, and you're not picking somewhere blind on an Airbnb.
Yeah.
And you've got an idea of a couple, like safety. You've got an idea of what do I want to be around.
Yeah.
You've just got a better sense of the city, and you've got that safety component covered as well.
Yeah, because it is really hard to know. I think you and I are lucky now after, 6, 7, 8, however many years we've been traveling. Like anywhere I go now, I have friends who have likely spent time in that place. So I'll say, like, can you tell me on a map, like, exactly where I should stay? Like, give me an exact radius or streets. Like, is this one okay? And they're going to be like, no, that's actually, it looks great, but it's here. So before you have, if you don't yet have that network, as Jeff said, kind of book a place maybe for 2, 3 nights. And then once you get the lay of the land, you're like, oh, this street feels good. I can go check it out. It looks good. I'm going to book this for, if you're staying somewhere, like, if you want to stay for a month or two somewhere, like get on the ground and then find that place to stay.
Cool. So arriving is a major hurdle. We've covered that. You've got it. You made it safely to your Airbnb, or you made it to the hotel. What's next?
Yeah. So number 4, so we talked about kind of like arranging transportation on your arrival, but number 4 is just kind of like taxi, Uber, driver etiquette, safety in general. So with this, Uber, I find, again, I guess any horror story can happen. There's weird outliers with life, with anything. But in general, I find Uber to be really safe because, like, there's an app that knows who it is. You're connected. Someone could research it. You can vet it. You can see how many stars they have. I remember I was in Egypt and I took an Uber. I was by myself and I was going for like 2 hours. And I just was doing everything last minute. I did everything wrong on that trip, but I remember, like, I didn't plan, like a driver ahead of time. And I was like, I'm just going to order an Uber. They were so inexpensive. And the guy that I had like 2,000 5-star ratings or something. So I was like, okay, like, I feel good about this, right? Like, he's probably a legit guy or person. But in general, if I'm just going in a taxi, if I'm in a town and it's like a couple minutes, like there's been times where I've gotten in a taxi where I was like, this guy feels sketchy. I wish I wasn't in this, but it's daylight and I'm going a couple minutes and like, that's probably fine. But I will say, like, really trust your instinct. I'm going to talk about more as like a whole theme at the end. But if you get into, like, let's say you're just flagging down a taxi or it's not, through an app or something, and that is the case for a lot of places, and you kind of look at someone or open the door, like there's times where I'll say, like, never mind, thank you, bye, like if you see someone or you feel like, I would say women and men in general, but I know we're talking to, for females in general here, like, trust your instinct. If you're like, oh, I shouldn't feel weird, like I'm being, I'm being weird in my head, like I should just be fine, it's just me, like, who cares? Trust your instinct. Like, close that door, get out, say you forgot something, say you never mind, I don't need a taxi. But whatever it is, like, I've gotten in some taxis with some men where I'm like, oh man, this feels weird. But if I was in a situation where it was night or I was going long distance or they were taking me somewhere else, or like, again, just trust your instincts of feeling safe. And some people you'll get in, and I know, I feel like I use my intuition a lot more than other people, but as a traveler, and especially as a female traveler, like, you really have to learn to trust your gut. So I'll say, like, use the apps and Ubers as much as you can, and then trust your instinct. If you look at someone or you get in or you feel like they're just not right, get out and just flag down the next taxi. And even if it takes 10, just like wait till you feel comfortable in one, or go inside and ask, like, a lot of times a hotel can provide you, if you're really not sure to trust your intuition, like, get a taxi driver, get someone's number who you do trust, ask someone at a hotel, ask someone at a restaurant to say, hey, do you know any taxi drivers that you trust? Can you give me their number? Like, you can text people, and everyone uses WhatsApp except for in America. So you can text on WhatsApp and get people's numbers and, like, find someone you trust. But any thoughts? I'm curious, Jeff, if you, like, does that ever cross your mind, or what comes across as I'm saying this?
Yeah, I mean, not nearly this, like 10% of that
yeah.
usually occurs to me. And I do think about it. And you get those moments where you get in a taxi and go, I'm going to end up in a desert or something. You just, some dudes just put off a really uncomfortable vibe.
Yeah.
Like a very kidnappy vibe. And
yes.
Yeah, I've had those feelings before too, from another perspective, from I'm going to get exploited somehow. And like,
you're like,
yeah.
money,
so there's something, body parts, money, whatever. I don't know. Not good. Not good outcome. So yeah, it's a consideration, but it's not on the same level. I know
Yeah.
my girlfriend, when she's traveling, most of these taxi and Uber apps, you can share your location. You can share your entire trip with people with
Yeah.
one click. So
Yeah.
if you're traveling with somebody, well, just share it with anybody. And then she'll get in the taxi and say, hey, can I have your name and license plate? And
Yeah.
just by letting them know that she's sharing this information with somebody,
Yeah.
it gives a little bit more peace of mind to her. And if it's a sketchy driver, it might make him think twice about it, knowing that he's being surveilled during the entire trip.
That's a really good
So,
point.
what about when you need to use the metro or buses or things like that? Are there any additional considerations with that?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I hadn't talked about that one as much. So I think the same thing sort of goes is just like researching ahead of time. So for example, like I lived in New York for a lot of years, and there's some times where like generally it's mostly just safe to use at all hours of the night. But sometimes I was like, I wouldn't, if I was in a weird location, like I know that this train is going to be busier and I'd feel safe on that one, but like this one kind of goes to the middle of nowhere and feels weird. Like maybe I'll take a taxi instead. So I would say that's one where you just kind of have to do individual research ahead of time of a place and just do some Googling. People will have written blog posts about it and say like, is it safe to take this metro or this public transportation at night? And you're going to get a whole list of like it's hard because it's not a blanket statement of like don't do it at night or do. It's like based on the place you're in, you're going to have to do individual research to see like probably in Japan it's like almost always safe just because it's a very safe place. But if you're in some random other place where it's just like it might be really sketchy at night but fine during the day, or it's fine on these certain lines, but if you're going this direction, like maybe don't at night. So just do your research for individual places.
Probably makes sense too. Google Maps does a really good job of showing you where the trains are and which ones to catch at which time. So I would think it would make sense to go in not looking lost. So the kind of wandering around, like looking at the
Yes.
map kind of thing, and just walking with a purpose and knowing your route ahead of time in case you've got some weird transfer or something, or you've got to wait for another train.
That's
kind of
a
thing.
good blanket statement. I don't have this one as like an individual tip, so I'm gonna do a blanket statement as well. What Jeff just said is like look confident anywhere you go. Like if you're there and you're like checking your phone and looking up and looking down, you're going to be a target that you're not comfortable, you don't know where you are, and you're easy to take advantage of, right? So wherever you go, even if you have to pop into a restaurant and like take your phone out, look at everything that's going on and be like, okay, I'm going to put my phone away. I'm going to walk confidently. Like I know what I'm doing. There's also, I want to just, give this blanket statement too. There's times where you can like look confident and assertive, but also times where you can really like almost turn off your energy. This is going to sound weird, but I heard this I think was so fun as I applied this to travel, but I heard this example one time. I think it might have been in a podcast, but somebody was talking about how they had run into Meryl Streep. They were backstage at at a show. This sounds random, but I promise I'll come back. And she was there like watching a friend on stage. And so this person was backstage and didn't even notice she was sitting there. Like she was almost like, like a chameleon, like kind of blends in, turns off, like you just don't even notice a person. And when it was over and her friend came backstage, she said it was as if like she just like literally like turned her energy on, turned her light on, was like present, noticeable, talking to her friend. And then as she left, she like turned off again. So as you think about this example, that's like with a celebrity, but like there's times if you're walking down the street and you can like turn your energy on, you're like, I'm present, I'm here, I'm noticeable, like look at me, like I'm good. Like maybe that's your daylight safe energy. But when I walk around at night, and it sounds weird because it's kind of an energetic principle, but you're like, how can I be as unnoticeable as possible? I'm gonna wear like a baggy sweatshirt, I might put a hood on, like I want to be as like I'm like, sometimes you can walk assertively and confident, but sometimes you just kind of like turn off your energy so you're really unnoticeable. So that kind of applies as a blanket statement with everything you're doing. And it's kind of a weird thing that I'd never thought about until like even just living in LA, New York, places, I've lived in my life. You really learn how to do this in general. And so learn how to kind of blend in and turn off your energy in a lot of situations, but also don't look lost in like a peppy kind of like not knowing where you're going or what you're doing as well.
I'm constantly getting that from my girlfriend when walking around Medellin. She's like, stop standing out. Stop standing out. I'm like, okay, I'm trying
It's hard for
my
you
best.
as a blonde. I feel like you probably do stand out in a lot of places.
Yeah, I do. I stand out like a sore thumb. Like I look like a target around there. But
Okay, this one kind of like goes in it. But number 5 is learning when to walk by yourself and when not to. So again, some of these the advice kind of blends together, but There are certain streets, again, like you just don't do it. Or in Cape Town, for example, like it's just not good to walk alone at night there. And it's really frustrating as someone, like I love to walk everywhere I can. Like when I lived in New York, if something was 45 minutes walk away, like I'm walking just because I like it. It feels good. I like to exercise. Like I like to move. I like to see places by walking. So I remember I was at dinner with a friend at night in Cape Town, and my house was like, I was staying like literally 3 blocks away. Easiest walk during the daytime, and I was leaving, and he was from Cape Town, and I was like, I'm just gonna walk home. And I was like, I'm so close. He was like, Marissa, no, like get in my Uber. I will drop you off on the way. So anyway, just thinking through like when can you walk by yourself and when can you not? So if you happen to book a place in a sketchy area by accident, like sometimes you want to pay for your safety, right? So pay the extra money to take the cab or the Uber home. And if you are walking by yourself, this goes back to what I was just saying, like learn how to like bring a sweatshirt, bring a hoodie, bring a rain jacket. Like there was one time I was walking down the street in Cape Town where I think I was wearing a rain jacket and I put a hoodie on because I was like, I'm trying to feel like I want to be the sketchy person, not like look like the target. And I was walking behind this family that had 2 kids, and I feel like they were looking at me to be a. They didn't actually, but like I noticed and felt them being like, "Who is this sketchy person walking behind me?" And like it was me. So it was funny, like, but I purposefully was in that energy. So yeah, it's funny to start to think through, but you wanna just think through like when is it okay to walk alone at night and when is it not, and even for example, I remember when we were in Romania, there was one night where we were all out together. I was with you, Jeff, and a bunch of our friends, and I was staying elsewhere, and you guys were in the other direction. And like normally, I was close enough that I could have walked home. And I remember several you guys, you and Mike, you were like, "Do you want me to walk you home?" And I was like, "No, like I really am good." But I got in a cab instead of walking. No matter like how badly I really wanted to walk, I was like, "It's safer. I'm gonna take a taxi." Like you guys like walked me to the taxi. You know, it was like 2 a.m. And we're like, text me when you're home. You know, I'm bad at doing that, but like those sort of things. So just be mindful of like when to walk alone and when not to. And then also like know your route. So for example, and sometimes it takes a while to learn a place that you're in. But in Playa del Carmen in Mexico, where I've spent so much time, like I know the routes. I'm like, okay, I can walk down 10th Ave. It's bright. I'll walk, even if it's like a little longer out of the way. I'm like, I'm going to walk as far as I can on this street. And I'm going to go one street past where I normally would because this next street is well lit. And then I'm going to take a left right when I have to at the last second on this dark little street. So I know this is kind of like a lot of advice I'm throwing at you. And maybe you'll re-listen to this as you arrive in a place. And there's so many little things you learn along the way. So even if you just remember a thing or two to keep in mind, like, yeah, just try some of these tips.
For me as a digital nomad, I feel like this is probably the thing that resonates the most. I'm always super, super cognizant of where I'm walking and when I'm walking, because it feels like when something could happen to you, it seems like that's probably the most likely scenario where it's going to happen because it's so easy to do something wrong in that situation. The amount of times I've had an oops situation where you described kind of like that checkerboard thing in neighborhoods where it's like, oh, it's totally fine. And then all of a sudden, oops, you walked 50 too many feet in one direction, and all of a sudden you're in a very dangerous area, and you might even have to backtrack and go around that little area. And you didn't know because maybe you saw it during daylight hours, or maybe you were just walking home at night and it looked normal because you really don't have an eye for these things yet because you haven't explored the neighborhood and you don't know what's okay and what's not okay. And that's happened to me like so many times. And if I had just looking back in retrospect, it's super, super easy for sure. I could just be like, oh, that was dumb. But in the moment, you don't really know. So I couldn't, if I could give anything to this podcast for anybody, it would just be really like over prepare by understanding these neighborhoods before walking anywhere alone, and especially walking anywhere alone at night. And maybe just don't even do it in Cape Town. I got those feels. I got those feels for sure. Similar to, I had a couple bad incidents in Bogota, which is not a particularly safe place as well. I was getting harassed and chased by some dudes down the street. I was walking alone at night, and it seemed like it was just off the busy area by like half a block. And it was just a little bit quieter. I was like, I thought this was fine because I walked. Make a difference. I walked it during during daylight hours. It's totally fine. At nighttime, not totally fine.
And I want to add 2 quick things with this one as well. One is just as a quick tip to learn, as you're saying, like, how do you learn which, like, it looked fine during the day and then it wasn't, at this hour. So one thing I really love to do is when you have that airport taxi, like the second you get somewhere or you have a hotel or a restaurant or somewhere, like you have a local, I always ask those people and I say, like, hey, is it safe to walk around here? Are there places I should avoid? Ask the local people they know. And then two, and this one is, maybe for men in general, but especially for women, is like, put your ego aside and ask for help. So as an example, like there's times where I don't know, like Jeff knows me well enough. Like I am super independent. I don't like to ask for help. I don't want to have to ask for help. I hate that it is a world where females do have to, have more support in some places. But I remember, as you were just saying, Jeff, so when I was in Mexico, I was with, a boyfriend at the time who he was staying in a place that was just like in the daytime it was fine, but his place was like at night, like it just wasn't quite comfortable for me to walk to. And I had walked several nights. I was like, I'm good. Like, it's fine. I know this area. But then he was walking one night and he had the same thing where he, instead of going the busy street, he kind of went one random one and someone followed him and was saying weird things. And he had to like go into a different apartment to pretend it was his till this guy passed by. So anyway, there's times like where I'd be going over there. I was coming from somewhere at night and like, this is something I hate to do because I hate to ask for help. Normally I'd be like, I'll get you, like, I'll be there. Or I could have taken a taxi, but instead I was like, hey, I'm here. Will you come meet me here and walk with me back home? So don't be afraid to, whether it's a friend, if they offer, like when you and Mike were like, hey, do you want me to walk you home? Like, I probably should have said yes, but I'm like, no, like I got it, So do accept help from your male friends. Like, even if you have a strong ego like me and you think you can do everything yourself, like accept when people offer to help or go out of your way to ask someone if you're staying in a weird place and there's someone walking out the door to say, hey, like, do you mind walking me till I get to this like place? Or like your guy friends will go out of the way 4 blocks and like accept the help is, as I say, the bigger thing. And that's really hard for me to say. So yeah.
All right, I think we covered that one really, really well.
It's a big one. Okay, the other ones will be quicker.
It's a big one. Yeah.
That walking one is a big, and it's, even as you heard Jeff say, it's like a lot to learn. And even when you're in a place, like it can take a while to learn. So
I think almost all the incidents I've heard of, aside from a few, like we covered the taxi thing, seem to be walking at night in particular. So if there's an exclamation point to put on one of these recommendations, that's a big one. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Cool. But what's next on your list?
Okay. Number 6 is research the cultural kind of customs and attire ahead of time. So for example, when I was living in Oman for the month, that is a country in the Middle East in which many women are, some women are covered from head to toe completely, face included. Sometimes their face is open, but their hair, their head is always covered. But as a general rule, like travelers aren't necessarily expected to always cover your hair. For females, but we had a sort of as a general rule that like you always want your shoulders and your knees covered, or people are going to look at you and like you are going to stand out. You are not going to blend in, as we've talked about. So this one is interesting because as a traveler, you're like, I know some people are like, well, why should I have to follow someone else's customs? Like, I'm comfortable wearing shorts and a tank top, it's a very narrow-minded way. So there's some places, so like in Dubai, for example, in the Middle East, you'll also see a lot of people covered from head to toe, but there's also women in, sundresses and cute little skirts and things like that. So it's kind of like know the place. But when you're somewhere else where all local women are really covered in certain ways, for your own safety and respect for other places, it's just helpful to follow, like dress as the locals do. Because you're going to be more of a target. Like you're going to feel uncomfortable as well. Like if I'm walking down the street in a tank top and my shoulders are out, like if I'm in Mexico, that's normal. Everyone's doing that. But if I'm in Oman, all the men are going to stare at me as if I'm wearing nothing, So it's just like, can you do it? Are you allowed to? Yes. But I just recommend like, know the places you're in, know where you're going, know how most women are dressing, and just be mindful and respectful. And you might cover up more than you're okay with or care about or used to, but it's important to do in these situations. Kind
of ties in really nicely with your knowing when to stand out and knowing when not to stand out. Because if you look like if you look like a tourist,
yes,
there's an expression in Colombia, no da papaya, don't give papaya. It means don't give somebody an opportunity to take advantage of you.
I love that.
Like Not, yeah. And like, it reminds me of like when I walk down the streets and I'll see, some dude with high-waisted shorts tucked in with a safari hat on with the phone out and the sunscreen on the nose. It's like,
Yes.
don't be that person. Yeah, that's a common sense thing, but you still see it,
Yeah.
and it's makes it worth talking about, at least. It's important.
Yeah, it's so funny as you say that. I remember I was walking, this was probably at 11 a.m. in Cape Town one day, and I was walking to a pretty touristy area, but there was like one street before you got there that wasn't touristy, and probably at night it'd be pretty creepy, and during the day even I was sort of alert. But there was this couple, they were probably in their late 40s, I would say, like clearly in Cape Town, like on vacation traveling, and there was this little like cutout in the wall, like while I was walking, that they had like ducked into to like open their map and like maybe look at their wallet or phone, or I don't even know what they were doing. But I remember passing by them and just think like, and they were dressed very touristy. And I was like, if I was a robber, like I would take everything from you. Like you guys are standing out so much, and you jumped.
I've had
into
the
this,
same thought before.
like they thought that they were hiding, but like they were even more in a place where I was like, I just walked by. I could take everything from you in this moment. Like, come on, people, like do better. So don't be those people.
With that consideration, I just recently had another thought, because I've seen women walking around particularly dangerous neighborhoods with lots of stuff. Like they've brought their giant bags of stuff, and it just clicked in my mind like, that doesn't seem safe. That looks like so much stealable shit. And
Yes.
and then like the navigating with the phone type of things. Do you have any considerations about what you're taking with you when you're walking around a particularly dangerous neighborhood, or any neighborhood?
Yeah, I'm really mindful. This is a good just overall topic for men, women in general. There's one advice Diego always says. He uses a really like old backpack, like doesn't like, so instead of having like the bag that you carry, like does it look like a nice bag with nice stuff in it, even if you don't have it. So he'll say like he purposely gets like an old like bag that looks kind of ratty, that looks like it would have nothing in it. So if you want to go Diego's method, go that way. But in general, yeah, there's times where I was like, if I'm in somewhere where I feel pretty safe, I might be at a cafe working with my laptop and lots of stuff, and then go meet friends for dinner, and then walk home with my laptop and like feel totally safe. But there's other places where I was like, I literally will not walk down the street with a laptop, right? Like in Cape Town, for example, there's some places I walk during the day with it, but I was like, oh my gosh, I probably shouldn't be doing this. Like if I'm going to have my laptop to go work somewhere, I should probably take an Uber to and from that place, drop my laptop and go off. So yeah, like don't carry tons of stuff. And sometimes I'll see people, with their full backpacker or backpacking, whatever. I'm like, I just know you've got all your stuff. And sometimes there's just nothing you can do about that. And so that's where I say, like, don't arrive at night with everything that you own in the middle of nowhere without transportation. Like, have the transportation waiting for you, So as much as you can, try not to walk around with everything you own and all the expensive things. But sometimes there's situations where you have to. So just, like, walk in the better places. Try to get cabs in those situations. Like, try to turn your energy off. Like, don't stand out as much as you're going to stand out some, but... I'll actually do that for number 7 is actually, we've kind of talked about this now, but it's just like, don't stand out in some locations. So I would say that has to do with the stuff that you are carrying, put your stuff up, like go home, drop your stuff off and come back. Wear more, like even if it's a place where the attire is not like, you don't have to cover your shoulders or whatever. If you know you're going to be walking alone somewhere at night as a female, like wear more modest clothes. I know it sounds weird. And this sucks because there's so many memes where it's like, as women, like we shouldn't have to change. We should be able to wear nothing, almost nothing if we want, right? Like we should be able to wear not modest clothing if we want. But the fact is in the world, it's like sometimes it's just smarter not to do that, not to stand out in that way. So think about how you're dressing. Like think about if you're just getting an Uber and going to a party where people wear all the cute, sexy clothing, but if you know you're going to be like walking down the street in some places that you don't know, like, or even just bring a jacket, bring a sketchy rain jacket hoodie and be the sketchy one, So don't stand out both with your stuff and with your clothing in general.
Be the sketchy one. I like that.
Yeah, it's so funny to think through. I kind of find it funny. Like, I'm always like, it's just me. I'm not sketchy. But, like, yeah, you want to have that, like, sketchiness too when you're walking. So, I don't know if you've ever seen, there's some funny, like, girls will, I've heard these stories. I've never had to do this, but where a girl will be walking alone at night and like a male will approach her and she'll just like scream and this like almost like seem mentally unstable so that someone will like run away. I've never had to do that, but it like, be the sketchy one. I guess that's the moral of this story.
Do you have any particular tools that you use when you're traveling? Like some of my friends have the cell phone that wraps around as a necklace and it's like secured through a case. That kind of thing. So when you're in crowds and when you're in one of those situations where it seems like there might be opportunistic crime, do you have that in the back of your mind?
Yeah, I would say I just keep things very close to me. So like where things that's more of like a pickpockety situation, I think, which is very common in a lot of places. So there's some countries where I'll walk around, like, I'll just have my phone in my back pocket of jean shorts, like half sticking out, you can see it, and I feel totally comfortable walking like that. But there's other places where I will, like, if I have a purse, I'm going to have it, like, crossbody around me, and I'll tighten the strap so that it's, like, I'm almost holding it, like, close to my chest or close to my stomach. Whereas other places, like, it could be a longer strap and just kind of, like, hanging loose, and you don't think twice about it. So you can go like down the whole gamut of like there's purses that are like some people will just slice a purse strap and just run and take it. So there are purse like straps that are uncuttable. There are like there's other, or like the whole purse is like you can't snatch things, or it has locks or secret zippers. So sometimes I'll just put things like a zipper within a zipper, so it's not like you can't just put your hand in and grab it. But I would say for me, mostly, like, I'll just get a smaller, tighter purse and I will hold it. Or there's some places where I literally will not bring even a small purse. I will make sure I have a pocket that, like, fits a phone that, like, I want to look like I have nothing. So that's, like, going back to where if I'm a girl walking down the street with a purse, you assume I have a phone, a credit card, whatever in there. But if it looks like I'm walking down the street with nothing, like, I will hide my phone in a pocket. I will hide my card or wallet or something in a different place, so it looks like I'm carrying nothing. And there's a lot of places like in Nigeria I would do that. There's places in Cape Town and Mexico where I just want it to look like I have nothing on me, purse included. So it's kind of annoying because you're like, I can't have my gum and my glasses and you can't carry as many things, but you're just like, bring the absolute bare minimum. Sometimes people bring like burner phones that like they don't care if it gets lost and they leave their nice iPhone at home. So there's all different ways you can go, but I say just like try to hide things or keep it close to your body. Don't, it goes back to like when you're walking and all of that, but yeah.
Reminds me when I used to live in Oakland, I'd leave nothing in my car.
Yes.
And like sometimes I'd like leave the glove box open, be like, please don't break my window. Here's proof that I don't have anything. There's nothing here. Yeah, exactly. Don't like, so you're not inviting any curiosity.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Cool. What's next on your list?
Okay, number 8, and this kind of tops on to what we've been saying, is about jewelry. So this kind of goes to what you're saying of like, don't stand out and don't look like you have nice stuff, but don't wear nice jewelry, like in some places. I know there's women who, have big diamond wedding rings, and when they travel, they'll just wear a tiny little band or, like leave the diamond at home. But there's other times where even if you just have nicer jewelry, like I tried, like I have this ring I wear a lot that I love, and it's not like, it's special to me. So there's sometimes like, I'm just going to leave it at home. Like I want to wear it and I'm not going to. Or like, you can see
it's not the witchy mood ring.
I know, not the witchy mood. It is pretty witchy though. It has like collects bad energy. I love it. But it's also a stone from my grandmother, so it's just meaningful to me. But I would say even if something isn't nice, like, but looks expensive, don't wear it. Like just be a little bit more modest, wear less jewelry, leave the expensive, nice things. Like when I travel, I just don't really take expensive jewelry. When I'm home, I'm like, oh, I can wear more things. This is so fun. Like my stuff is here. But even with the jewelry I do travel with, because I love, you know me, like I love rings, and I have on like a million earrings and necklaces and rings and everything right now. But a lot of times if I'm walking somewhere, I'll take most of it off and I just won't wear a lot of jewelry. So like it kind of goes back to the glove box, right? Where you're like, look, I literally have nothing in my car. There's nothing to take. The same, even if it's like fake, it's like, just don't even give anyone a reason to think you have something nice or stealable or approachable. Okay, number 9 is, this is just about getting hassled in general. And this is less of like, I feel like all the other tips are how to avoid having things happen in the first place. This is more of just like, this is going to happen to you as a female, and what to do about it, and to sort of how to brush it off. So when you walk down the street, depends where you are in the culture, the Middle East, like there's places where you'll get a lot of like catcalling or just people saying things to you, but also like in New York, this happens to me as well. So it can happen anywhere, but it's just one of those things where I don't give attention to it. I don't say anything. I don't try to stop them or engage. It's like, if people are doing that to you, goes back to like, turn your energy off and just keep on walking. Like, but it's just one of those things that does happen to you as a female. It can be really annoying, and it can get really exhausting. I know sometimes when I'm in a place for a long time by myself, like I was traveling through the Middle East alone and just got so much of this. And by the time I got to Oman, which actually has very little of it in the Middle East, it has it's a much like safer, calmer culture than a lot of the other Middle East. But I went and I met up with friends again. I was just like, I am so happy to be with you guys, because I just don't have to be like on call being catcalled and harassed all the time. But just to say, it does happen, and it's sort of part of life, and I wish it wasn't, but the advice is don't engage, keep on walking, and turn your energy off. Turn your light off.
Ignore it. Turn the light off. Yeah.
Be sketchy.
Gotcha.
Be the sketchy one.
Be the sketchy one. It might be the through point in this entire conversation.
It is.
I love that motto.
I never
That's
thought
good.
about it. Me too. Okay.
So what's next?
Number 10 is be mindful of activities that you might get into alone. So when I'm with a group, there are places and things I'll do that are just easier with a group. I don't have an exact example of saying like, I mean, it's not like a hard and fast rule of like, do this, don't do that. But I think it's really helpful as you're going and you're thinking about like, do I want to go on this group ATV trip or something? It's like, am I going to have to get there alone? Do I have to drive far to do it? So it's, as you're planning things, say like, is there a group going as well? Or if it's 45 minutes away, to say like, will somebody from the tour company pick me up and go places? Or if I'm going to go on a hike, like there's places I probably shouldn't hike alone by myself. So find a meetup group or find friends. So this is just kind of a blanket statement to think through as you're planning different activities that you might want to do while you're traveling. Some are really easy. It might just be in a busy place in a city center, and you're totally good to do it by yourself. And all of these things, by the way, like I'm not telling female travelers like don't do things by yourself. Like I have done a lot by myself, probably things sometimes I could have not done and found other ways. So it's just saying, do your research and find the safe ways to do it. Maybe there's someone who's staying nearby that you can do it with, and maybe you want to do it on Monday, but there's a group doing it on Tuesday. So like, do it with the group on Tuesday, So I don't know. And I don't know if I'm explaining this one well, Jeff. Does that make sense, or like any thoughts with this one?
Yeah, it also depends on mostly the activity, right? Where it is, what time it is probably a big.
Yeah.
Like if it's
Are
a
you waking
nighttime,
up at 4 a.m. or late at night?
Yeah, or if I'm going to a party at like 10 o'clock at night, that kind of thing. Like that goes back to your earlier one, using common sense, intuition, that kind of thing. What's number 11?
All right, number 11. This is kind of a blanket statement that doesn't have exact advice as well, but it's just to think through is dating and going on dates while you are in foreign places. So if you are, it's probably different than just if you're going on vacation somewhere for a week. Maybe you're not used to like dating in a local scene, or maybe you are. But if you're like living somewhere for a month or two, part of the fun is dating people who are travelers, other local people. So this really just goes back to using common sense, and it's really not so different than dating in your own hometown, even if you're using dating apps or you've met someone out and about, or however that might be. The only difference is, like, if you think about all the other things we've talked about, you just might not know, like, where the sketchy places are. Like, if someone invites you somewhere to say, like, let's get a drink here, is that a good, comfortable place with a lot of people around, or is it in a really sketchy, weird place? Like, if it was your hometown, you might be like, hey, let's not meet there. Let's go to this place I know. So it's just sort of, again, use your common sense. Like, a lot of it goes to intuition of, like, trusting who's on the other side. Maybe you want to do a video call first if you just met someone on like a dating app, but again, make sure maybe you want to meet them in the day instead of late at night, or a coffee shop with a lot of people around, or just a busy street or park or beach or whatever it might be. So again, just sort of use your common sense. I have a lot of girlfriends who'll be like, Marissa, like I'm going at this place at this time with this person. Like, here's my, I'm going to share my location, share your location with friends. I have a lot of people who, it's really important to do that as well. Or even if I don't want to, they're like, Marissa, share your location with me. I'm like, I don't need to. But, it goes back to like, ask your friends for help, ask for support, use your common sense, go to places you feel comfortable, at times you feel comfortable. Any other thoughts with that one, Jeff?
Yeah, my friends have shared with me that when they go on first dates, especially first dates, they'll choose the location.
Yeah.
That way they know it's close to, it's in a safe place that they're familiar with, or it's close to where they're living, or it's going to be close to friends, or it's just like they've got more control over the situation.
Yeah. And it's actually
my girlfriend
funny.
did that to me.
Yeah,
she's
love it.
She's Colombian, and I learned about all this afterwards.
Tell us the quick story. That's funny.
She chose the location. She gave her mom the time we were going to be there, the live location. She vetted me beforehand, like everything, just to make sure that everything was going to be safe. When she vetted you,
what do you mean? What did she do?
She Google searched me. I can't remember.
Yeah. Did you meet on an app? I think I actually don't know this.
Yeah, Bumble.
Yeah, so I love it. Yeah, it's like, and it can turn into amazing things. So like we said, Jeff, like you guys met in Colombia. She was Colombian, you were traveling. And so like part of the fun is dating people in local places. It's like, don't not do it. And this turned into an amazing relationship now, right? But that's so funny that afterwards she's like, here's all the things I did to be safe with you.
Didn't even consider it. I thought,
and you're just like,
that's a great idea of a restaurant. That sounds really good tonight. Had very little to do with the food they were serving and everything to do with controlling the situation.
Good for her.
Pretty smart.
Yeah,
exactly.
I also want to say this is a brief switch for males that you haven't thought about, or that like maybe people don't think about, because when my male friends told me this, it's something I don't consider as a female, and I was like, what? But it's funny because a lot of times when they would go like take women home, I had a friend who once was like, I won't go to sleep, or like I won't let someone sleep over, because there are women, and I'm sure men do this too, but this is kind of like the tables are turned for men, who will bring women home, sleep with them, and they will steal all their stuff in the middle of the night and leave. And I was like, oh, what? Like, I don't know, that just had never occurred to me. But it's happened to, I know, like definitely people we know, our friends. So men, just throwing out a tip for you too, of like maybe get to know who you're taking home as well.
I had friends do the same thing. They'd be like, here's the location. If you don't hear from me, please text me at this time, yada, yada, yada. Because, you can get taken. Some women will be working with men to, usually it's to scam a guy for something.
Yeah, so men be aware too.
You get drugged and they'll take your stuff. It's just usually has to do for men with taking their stuff and finding ways to take their stuff. So it's worth considering, but maybe that's a very short bonus segment.
Short bonus. Yeah, I think women in general are more important about like our bodies and our safety and like rape culture and things like that. And it is something very serious to be mindful of, because I know bad things have happened to women while traveling. But just a side little note for men as well. So that's just we could do a whole topic on what was that?
Yeah. Man, you don't get a pass on that one. You got to keep a keen eye out.
Watch your stuff. Stay awake all night.
Watch your stuff. Yeah, exactly.
That one
are we on the last one on the list? I think we're on number 12.
We are. So number 12, this is also sort of a blanket statement, which is use your intuition. Whether like there are times where I'm walking down the street and it theoretically should be a safe street or whatever, and in my gut it's like turn around or go right, take a different street, and I listen to it. So like even if it is a safe street and your intuition like maybe sees something you don't yet see or feels something you don't feel, trust it. There's a book I read, I think it's Malcolm Gladwell, a book called Blink, and it's basically like our body has these cues that it gives us before. It's like almost think about like it's a smart computer taking in all of these little inputs, the spidey sense, and like you might not even know why, but your brain is trained, and the more you travel the better you get to say like, hey, this street might look sketchy or this person might look sketchy, because it's putting the science together based on all the other men and streets you've seen in your life, and it's like something's not right. And even if it might be fine, it's like just listen to your intuition. The same as we talked about, like when you get in that cab and your gut's like something feels wrong, it's like just listen to it. Even if it feels like you're being over dramatic, like be a little over dramatic in situations when you travel, and really just listen to it. If it says like take a cab instead of a place where you normally walk every day, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do that today, I don't know why. So just overall, and it really is a practice, like in my coaching even that I do, just with everything in life, I teach a lot of my clients how to listen to your intuition to make decisions about everything in life. But it's a really important one. Like, I can feel, and I like when I get in a cab or I'm walking with someone, or even like I've been walking at night. I remember in Mexico once I was walking home late at night from dancing, and there was this guy on the street drunk, and he was like, "Come get a drink with me and my friend." And like he actually seemed, it was like one of the more fun times. I was like, okay, like in my intuition, I was like, he's fun, he's innocent, like this will be fun. Other times, if someone would ask me that, I would be like, hell no, like I'm running in the opposite direction. So like,
that's kind of what
really,
I expected your reaction would be. That was
I know,
surprising.
Right?
Yeah.
But he was totally innocent and fun. Like I can feel, and I trust my intuition. And I think part of that is having traveled enough years. And I think I know my intuition more than a lot of people do. And I can read people and I can feel what they're feeling. And I believe I know if they have good intentions or bad intentions. So just practice trusting your intuition and really listen to it.
So this episode's been a whole bunch of warning signals and things to be aware of. And again, it's not pessimistic, it's helpful. But maybe we can leave things on a positive note about the things that you get out of being a female digital nomad and sometimes solo traveler.
Yeah, so you and I kind of talked about before of like the benefit of being a female and traveling, whether you're solo or just in general, and men too, is just like the empowerment that you get from it and the things that you learn feels so amazing. So it's like when you go and you solo travel to these places, or you just travel in groups and you're alone sometimes, it gives you such a confidence that like you can do anything in life. And I think that's a lot of what travel is about, is building up your confidence, building up your intuition, building up your people skills, and just feeling like really strong and empowered to say, like, you know, as you listen to this, as Jeff said, like you could take this and be like, oh my gosh, the world is dangerous, I'm not traveling anywhere. We don't talk about this as much because it's like, it's become so second nature that it's like, these are things I subconsciously do. I'm not thinking consciously about it so much anymore because it's so routine. And I've traveled to over 78 countries and almost like all continents, through Asia, Africa, Middle East, South America, Central America, by myself and with friends, and like you can do it. So all of that to say, like, I think as you do all of these things and you travel the world and you build up your practice, like you can feel empowered to be a female in the world, to be alone and navigate the world and do so much more because you've done all of this. So any thoughts on that, Jeff?
I think that's a good uplifting way to look at it. So again, we don't leave this on just a warnings only type of thing. I think that was a great job.
Amazing. Well, I think we wanted to give you the safety tips, but don't be alarmed, don't be scared. Take these as best practices and just ways that know that now you can go travel and you can get to like anywhere in the world. I would go almost anywhere in the world alone or otherwise, but there's ways to do it more safely and just more cognizantly as you go. So go to all the places, females and males, and just be smart about everything you do.
And I like how you said that. This sounds like a lot going through this podcast, but I like how you said that a lot of this becomes like second nature, just like breathing. Like something will click in your head, just like you're going through your morning routine. Like, oh, I forgot to brush my teeth this morning. You don't like actively think I didn't brush my teeth. It just clicks in you because you've done it so many times over and over and over again. Yeah. And you're at a place now where it's just like kind of running in the background at all times. Yeah. So you're not like actively stressing and using tons of brain power all the time. You got to a place where like you can comfortably do these things, feel empowered and feel safe at the same time.
Yeah. And it does take some time to get to know. I think that's why as nomads sometimes like it feels comfortable to go back to the same places because you're like, I've done the research, I know the safe streets, I know the things. So it does take more energy and effort sometimes when you get to a new place. But like you said, it's like driving a car where at first you're like, where's my blinker? Where's my gas pedal? How do I do this? How do I do that? Where's my mirror? And then eventually like you don't think about the things. You just go and do it. So that was, it becomes that way with safety as well.
Right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for the interview, Marissa. They covered these topics very, very well. If you found this episode useful, if you find this podcast useful, do us a favor and hop on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. You can add stars. You can add comments. We love reading the comments. That's great. If you get time, just take 15, 20 seconds to do that. Helps us out, helps us know which directions to go, which directions not to go. Either way, we really do appreciate it. And we will see you again next week.